Ladies and gentlemen, this moment is not an accident. You did not stumble upon these words by chance. This is the appointed hour, the divine whisper that has been calling you, the answer that has long been waiting for you to listen. There is a power within you, a force so magnificent that it shapes the course of your life. Yet, most live unaware of it, seeking outside what has always been within. The time has come to awaken to this truth, to recognize that your reality is not set by circumstances, but by the thoughts you habitually entertain. Pause for a moment. Take a breath. Feel the stillness within. That silence is the gateway to all you have ever desired. You have spent years looking outward, hoping that the world would give you a sign, a confirmation that your dreams are valid, that your desires are possible. But the truth is, the very longing you feel is not separate from its fulfillment. Your desire is not something to chase. It is something to embody, something to become. The message is clear. What you assume to be true will be made manifest in your life. You have been given dominion over all things, yet you allow the illusions of the world to dictate your beliefs. You see lack and you assume lack. You see failure and you assume failure, but you must awaken to the realization that these things are but reflections of your own consciousness. The world outside is nothing but a mirror, faithfully reflecting the assumptions you hold within. If you wish to change what you see, you must first change what you assume. Consider for a moment the nature of belief. Have you not noticed that what you deeply accept as true inevitably becomes your reality? Think of the times you were certain something would go wrong, and it did. Think of the moments you trusted in your success, and it unfolded effortlessly before you. This is not coincidence. This is the law in action. The law that governs all creation states that whatever you accept as real, with unwavering faith, must become your experience. Most live as victims of circumstance, believing the world to be something outside of them, something fixed and unchangeable. But this is a deception. The power that forms the stars, the same intelligence that breathes life into all things, is not separate from you. It moves through you, responds to you, and creates according to the images you hold in your mind. You are not here to be shaped by the world. You are here to shape the world by the assumptions you persistently entertain. The great secret is this: before anything can manifest in your external world, it must first be accepted in the unseen realm of consciousness. Every great achievement, every act of transformation begins with an inner conviction. Those who have risen above limitations, who have shaped history and defied the odds, did not do so by waiting for proof. They first believed in the unseen, trusted in the reality of their desire before any evidence appeared, and the world conformed to their assumption. You must do the same. If you desire abundance, you must assume abundance, not in words alone, but in feeling, in certainty. You must walk, speak, and live as though you already possess the wealth you seek. If you long for love, you must assume yourself to be already cherished, already embraced by the love you desire. If you seek health, you must assume the wholeness of your being, rejecting all thoughts that contradict the truth of your well-being. Doubt will whisper, circumstances will test you, but these are mere shadows of past assumptions. Persist. Hold fast to the unseen. Do not be swayed by what appears before you, for what you see is only the outpicturing of old beliefs. If you wish to experience something new, you must first assume it is true, unwaveringly, regardless of what the world tells you. Faith is not a passive state. It is the conscious act of assuming the reality of your desire. It is the refusal to accept anything less than the fulfillment of that which you seek. It is the knowing that even before you ask, it is already given. And so you do not ask with pleading, but with thanksgiving, for you understand that all that you seek is already yours in the realm of the unseen. The world will tell you to wait, to be practical, to seek proof before belief. But the truth is, the order is reversed. First, you must believe. First, you must assume. First, you must live in the end, and the world will bend to reflect your inner state. There is no exception to this law. It is as certain as the rising sun. So I ask you now, what are you assuming to be true? What beliefs are you nurturing in the garden of your mind? For they are shaping your world, whether you realize it or not. You hold within you the power to rewrite the script of your life, to step into the reality of your highest vision. But it begins with choice. It begins with a decision to assume that what you desire is already yours. Stop searching for signs in the world outside. Stop waiting for permission to believe in your own power. The sign is before you. The message is clear. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Persist in that assumption and know with absolute certainty that the world must respond in kind. This is the law. This is the truth. And this, my friends, is the message you have been waiting for. The kingdom of heaven is within you. This is not a metaphor, nor a poetic phrase to be admired from a distance. It is a truth so profound that, if fully understood, would change the very fabric of your existence. The power you seek, the guidance you long for, the answers to the questions that have burdened your soul, they are not outside of you waiting to be found in the shifting circumstances of the world. They are within, woven into the very nature of your being. The world has taught you to look outward, to seek validation from others, to chase after signs and confirmations. But the truth is, you are the source. You are the creator of your own reality. And the moment you recognize this, the moment you fully accept that all power is within, the illusions of limitation and struggle will fall away. Every desire you have ever held is a seed planted by divine intelligence. These desires are not random. They are not fleeting wishes that come and go without purpose. They are whispers from the infinite calling you to recognize your own creative power. Yet many dismiss them, believing them to be too great, too distant, too impossible. They look at the world, see no evidence of their desires manifesting, and in their doubt, they assume failure before success has even had a chance to unfold. This is the greatest error, for reality does not shape itself first and then convince you to believe. You must believe first, assume first, and only then will the external world shift to match the inner conviction. The law is simple. To manifest it, you must first assume it to be real. This is not about mere words or idle daydreams. It is about feeling, about embodying the state of already having that which you desire. If you wish to experience love, you must first assume yourself to be loved. If you wish to experience abundance, you must first assume yourself to be abundant. If you wish to experience health, you must first assume yourself to be whole and vibrant. The world will not give you permission. It will not provide proof before you believe. The proof comes only after the assumption has been made and sustained. Many will say, but I see no evidence. How can I believe in something I cannot see? Yet they fail to recognize that everything they now see was once unseen. Every great achievement, every invention, every movement that shaped the course of history began as an unseen reality within the mind of one who dared to assume it as real. The unseen is the foundation of all that is seen. The inner world is the cause. The outer world is merely its reflection. If you persist in the assumption of your desired state, the world must conform. It has no choice, for it is but a shadow of your consciousness. Doubt is the greatest thief of creation. It enters subtly, whispering that things are not changing, that circumstances are too fixed, that your desires are too distant. But doubt has no power unless you grant it permission. The moment you entertain it, you give it life, and the world reflects that hesitation back to you. The way forward is through unwavering faith. Not blind faith in something outside of you, but faith in the divine intelligence within. That intelligence does not make mistakes. It has placed within you the vision of your highest self, because it is already yours to claim. The only requirement is that you persist in the feeling of having it, even when the world appears unchanged. There is no force outside of you determining the course of your life. There is no external will shaping your reality against your wishes. Everything you experience is the direct result of your inner state, of the assumptions you have persisted in, whether consciously or unconsciously. Most people drift through life unaware of this law, allowing their minds to be shaped by fear, by doubt, by the opinions of others. They react to circumstances instead of creating them, and so they find themselves trapped in cycles of lack, waiting for something outside of them to change before they allow themselves to believe in better. But creation does not work this way. The change must come first from within. The question is not whether this law works. It is working every moment of every day. The question is only whether you will use it consciously. Will you continue to allow the world to dictate your beliefs, or will you step into the awareness that you are the one shaping the world? Every moment is an opportunity to choose. Every thought is a seed planted into the soil of your reality. The only question is, what are you planting? What are you nurturing in the garden of your mind? If you wish to see new results, you must first cultivate new assumptions. Do not wait for evidence before you believe. Do not wait for circumstances to shift before you assume your rightful place as the creator of your reality. Assume now. Feel now. Live now in the end, in the full confidence that what you have claimed is already yours. The world may not yet show it, but that is irrelevant. The world is only a delayed reflection of your persistent assumption. Hold firm. Remain unmoved by appearances. Trust in the unseen, and know that the seen must eventually conform. To manifest it, you must first assume it to be real. This is the law. This is the truth, and this is the message that has been waiting for you to hear. There is no power outside of consciousness. Nothing in the external world has authority over you unless you give it permission. The conditions you face, the circumstances that seem unchangeable, and the limitations you have accepted as real, all of them exist only because they have first been entertained within. The world, as it appears to you, is not something separate. It is a reflection, a mirror, showing you precisely what you have assumed to be true about yourself and your reality. Change the assumption, and the world must conform. Most people live in bondage, not because of external forces, but because of the beliefs they hold about themselves. They have accepted the idea that life happens to them, that they are at the mercy of fate, luck, or the decisions of others. They believe that success is reserved for the fortunate, that love is something to be earned, that wealth is difficult to attain. And so they experience exactly that: struggle, limitation, and lack, because their assumptions, though unseen, are shaping every aspect of their lives. There is nothing to change but self. The world does not need to be manipulated. Circumstances do not need to be forced into place. The only work required is within. You are already equipped with everything necessary to create the life you desire. But as long as you look outward, searching for confirmation, waiting for the world to change first, you will remain trapped in the cycle of reaction. Creation does not begin in the outer world. It begins within. Every great shift in life, every moment of transformation, is preceded by a change in self-concept. If you see yourself as unworthy, no amount of external success will ever be enough to change that. If you assume lack, no amount of money will ever bring true abundance. If you see yourself as unloved, no relationship will ever be satisfying. The outer world will always reflect back the state you most consistently occupy. If you wish to experience something new, you must first assume a new state of being. To assume a state is not to wish for it, nor to daydream about it as though it were something separate from you. It is to embody it fully, to walk, speak, and think from the perspective of the one who already has what they desire. It is to abandon the old self and step completely into the new. This is the great secret, the truth hidden in plain sight. The world does not give you what you want. It gives you who you are. And who you are is determined by what you assume yourself to be. There is no power in external condition. Nothing outside of you has the ability to dictate your experience unless you accept it as real. The only reality is the one you assume to be true. If you assume struggle, struggle will appear. If you assume ease, ease will follow. If you assume yourself to be powerless, life will show you evidence of that powerlessness. But the moment you shift your assumption, the moment you decide to embody a new state, the world begins to change. Most people make the mistake of believing that they must first see evidence before they can believe. They wait for signs, for proof that their desires are possible. But this is not how creation works. The law is absolute. First, you must assume. First, you must believe. The world cannot reflect back to you something you have not first entertained within. If you are waiting to see before you believe, you will wait forever. The unseen must be accepted as real before it can be made visible. The question then is not whether you have the power to change your life. That power has always been yours. The real question is, will you assume it? Will you finally recognize that nothing stands between you and your desires except the assumptions you currently hold? Will you dare to believe in your own creative power? The choice is always yours. It does not matter what the world tells you. It does not matter what your past experiences have been. The only thing that matters is what you now assume to be true. If you persist in the assumption of your desire fulfilled, nothing can prevent its realization. The world must conform, for it has no power of its own. It is only the shadow of your consciousness, taking form according to the images you hold within. Stop looking outward. Stop waiting for conditions to change before you allow yourself to believe. Assume now. Step into the state of your desire now. Feel its reality, live in the end, and watch as the world shifts to reflect the new assumption. There is no force opposing you. There is only your own belief in limitation, and that belief can be changed in an instant. You hold within you the key to all transformation. There is nothing to change but self. The moment you shift your assumption, the moment you step fully into the new state, the outer world has no choice but to follow. This is the law, this is the truth, and the moment you accept it, your entire world will change. The only reality is consciousness. The world you see, the conditions you experience, the people you encounter, none of these exist independently of your perception. They are reflections, mere shadows cast by the light of your awareness. Everything that appears in your life has first been imagined, first been assumed, first been felt as real within. And because consciousness is the only reality, nothing can enter your experience unless it is first entertained in mind. Most believe the world operates independently of them. They see themselves as small, as subject to forces beyond their control, as victims of chance and circumstance. But this is the great illusion. The external world is not separate from you. It is the projection of your inner state, the manifestation of the beliefs and assumptions you have accepted as true. If you assume lack, you will experience lack. If you assume rejection, you will encounter rejection. If you assume success, the world will mold itself to reflect that success. This is not theory. This is law. There is no escaping the creative power of consciousness. You are always assuming something, whether consciously or unconsciously. Every moment you are choosing what to believe about yourself and the world. And those beliefs are being externalized in ways so precise that most fail to see the connection. The law is always in operation. The question is, are you using it deliberately? Or are you allowing past conditioning and external appearances to dictate your assumptions? The world does not cause your state of being. Your state of being causes the world you experience. If you wait for evidence before you believe, you are allowing effects to dictate causes. This is why so many remain trapped in the same patterns year after year. They look at their circumstances, assume them to be real and unchangeable, and in doing so, they perpetuate them. But if they would only reverse the process, if they would assume a new state first, without needing to see proof, the world would have no choice but to conform. You do not need to fight against appearances. You do not need to struggle to change external conditions. The only work required is inner work. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Claim it within as though it were already so, and then persist in that assumption, unmoved by what the senses report. The world may seem unchanged at first, but that is irrelevant. What you assume within must take shape in the outer world. It has no choice, for consciousness is the only reality, and the world is simply its expression. Most allow their senses to dictate their beliefs. They see lack and assume lack. They experience failure and assume more failure will come. But the senses only reflect past assumptions. They are not indicators of what is possible. If you wish to create something new, you must ignore what appears before you and assume the reality of your desire, even when every sense contradicts it. This is the test of faith. Not faith in something outside of you, but faith in the law itself. Faith in the unseen power of assumption. Nothing is impossible to the one who fully embodies the state of their desire. The only limitation is the limitation accepted within. If you assume something is beyond your reach, then it will be. If you assume yourself unworthy, then the world will reflect that unworthiness. But the moment you shift the assumption, the moment you claim a new identity, everything changes. The world does not delay. It responds instantly, though the manifestation may take time to appear. Persist in the assumption and do not waver. Doubt is the only thing that can delay the fulfillment of a desire. The moment you begin to question whether it is working, whether the world will change, you have stepped out of the new state and returned to the old. The key is to remain faithful to the assumption, regardless of appearances. Feel it real, live in the end, and know that what you have assumed must come to pass. Everything begins and ends in consciousness. There is no power outside of you. No external force determines your fate. The world is your mirror, reflecting the state you most consistently occupy. If you do not like what you see, do not attempt to change the reflection, change the source. Change your assumption, change your state of being, and the world must follow. This is the law, this is the truth, and this is the message you have been waiting to hear. The world you experience is not separate from you. It is not something happening to you, nor is it governed by forces beyond your control. It is and always has been the reflection of your inner state, the outpicturing of your assumptions. To change anything in the external world, you must first change it within. This is the great secret, the eternal law of consciousness. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. There is no greater power than the assumption of already being that which you desire to be. It is not a question of whether the law works. It is always working, always bringing forth in the outer world what has first been accepted in the inner. The only question is, what are you assuming? What are you accepting as true? Most live their lives unaware of this principle, allowing circumstances to dictate their beliefs. They see lack and assume lack. They experience rejection and assume themselves to be unworthy. They look outward, expecting the world to change first, but this is not how creation operates. The outer world is but a mirror, reflecting faithfully the inner state of being. If you wish to see something new, you must first embody it within. Most people pray for change, asking some external force to intervene, to grant them the desires of their heart. They believe that if they plead enough, if they show themselves worthy, something outside of them will bestow blessings upon them. But this is not prayer in its truest form. True prayer is not begging. It is the assumption of already having that which is thought. It is the full acceptance within consciousness that the desire is already fulfilled. When you assume a state as real, when you feel it as though it were already done, You are praying in the only way that guarantees results. The key to this law is feeling. Thought alone is not enough. Repeating words, affirming without conviction, hoping rather than knowing. These will not bring about change. The only way to alter your reality is to step fully into the feeling of already being what you desire to be. You must claim it so completely that there is no room for doubt, no space for questioning whether or not it will come to pass. The assumption, once firmly held, must harden into fact. Many make the mistake of assuming a state momentarily, only to abandon it when the senses show no immediate evidence of change. They allow appearances to dictate their beliefs, rather than holding steadfast to the truth that consciousness is the only reality. They assume wealth for a day, only to check their bank account and return to the assumption of lack. They assume love, but when no one immediately appears, they revert to loneliness. This is not persistence. This is not true assumption. The law does not work by momentary conviction. It requires unwavering faith in the unseen. To assume a state means to embody it fully, to live from the end, to carry oneself as though it were already done. This is not pretense. It is the recognition of the deeper truth, that creation is finished, that all states already exist, and that by selecting one and dwelling in it, it must externalize itself. It is not enough to think of your desire. You must think from it. The one who desires wealth must no longer think as one who seeks riches, but as one who already possesses them. The one who desires love must not seek love, but be love. The one who desires health must cease thinking of recovery and instead assume the feeling of perfect well-being. There is no need to concern yourself with how the assumption will externalize itself. The bridge of incidents leading to its fulfillment is not yours to construct. The conscious mind is too limited to foresee the infinite ways in which reality will shift to bring about the assumed state. The only requirement is to hold the assumption unwaveringly, to persist in the feeling, and to trust that it must appear in due time. The world will move, circumstances will change, people will act, all in accordance with the assumption held within. Many believe that effort and struggle are necessary, that hard work is the key to change. But the law operates not through effort, but through belief. It is not action that creates, it is assumption. The one who assumes the state of being already successful will find that actions naturally follow, that opportunities arise effortlessly, that doors open where none seem to exist before. The assumption draws all things necessary for its fulfillment, without strain or struggle. The only labor required is the labor of belief, of maintaining the inner conviction, even when the outer world appears unchanged. Doubt is the great enemy of assumption. The moment doubt is entertained, the moment one begins to question whether it is working, the assumption is weakened. The only way to ensure manifestation is to remain unmoved, to refuse to waver, to hold the assumption with such certainty that no contrary evidence can shake it. Those who have mastered this principle know that once an assumption is made and sustained, it is only a matter of time before it becomes fact. There is no external power controlling your fate. There is no force outside of you determining the course of your life. All that you experience is the result of your own inner activity. The assumption you hold most consistently, the state you return to again and again, is what shapes your reality. To change your world, change your assumption. Assume the feeling of already being that which you desire, and persist in that feeling until it takes form. The law is unfailing, for consciousness is the only reality. The only reality is the state you occupy. The world as you know it, the circumstances you face, the conditions that seem so fixed, all exist because of the state of consciousness you most frequently assume. To change anything, you must first change the state from which you view it. You do not change the world by manipulating shadows. You change it by altering the light that casts them. The world is nothing more than the projection of your inner being, and your inner being is defined by the state you have chosen, whether consciously or unconsciously. There are infinite states, each as real as the next, each containing within it its own conditions, its own experiences, its own version of reality. The person who sees lack is in a state where wealth is an impossibility. The person who sees failure is in a state where success cannot reach them. The person who experiences rejection is in a state where love is distant. These states are not fixed, nor are they imposed upon you. They are chosen, entered into, and perpetuated by assumption. The state you most consistently dwell in becomes your life. It is not enough to desire a new state. You must assume it. To long for change while continuing to dwell in the same old state is to remain where you are. Desire alone does nothing. It is the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the assumption that you already are the person you wish to be, that brings about the transformation. The moment you enter a new state, everything shifts. You begin to think differently, speak differently, act differently, not because you are forcing yourself to, but because the state itself demands it. The change is effortless when the assumption is complete. Many believe that change requires time, that growth is a slow process, that transformation happens gradually. But time is irrelevant to the law of assumption. The moment you fully accept a new state, it becomes your reality. The delay is never in the external world, it is always within, in the wavering mind, in the unwillingness to fully let go of the old identity. The world responds instantly to the shift in consciousness, but if one continually moves between states, stepping into the new while still clinging to the old, the change appears delayed, though in truth it is only the inconsistency of assumption that causes the illusion of waiting. To move into a new state requires nothing more than belief. There is no external action needed, no effort, no struggle, no fight. It is a simple act of acceptance. The moment you claim it as real, the moment you fully embody it, the world begins to rearrange itself to reflect your assumption. It does not matter how impossible it seems, how contrary it appears to your current circumstances. The law is unfailing. Assume a state, and it must externalize itself in ways beyond your comprehension. The mind may argue, the senses may contradict, but none of this matters. The only question is, can you persist in the assumption despite appearances? Can you remain faithful to the new state, even when the outer world suggests nothing has changed? Most fail, not because the law is untrue, but because they allow doubt to creep in. They look to the world for confirmation, waiting for proof before they believe. But the law requires faith in the unseen, confidence in the reality of that which has not yet materialized. If you wait for the world to prove your assumption before accepting it, you will wait forever. You have always been shifting states. Every moment of your life, you have moved from one state to another, often without realizing it. The moods you experience, the emotions you entertain, the thoughts you persist in, all of these determine the state you occupy. The problem is that most people move unconsciously, shifting in and out of states without direction, reacting to circumstances rather than deliberately assuming a state of their choosing. But the power has always been yours. At any moment, you can step into a new state, claim it as your own, and persist in it until it hardens into fact. You are never stuck. No condition is permanent unless you assume it to be. The moment you decide to leave a state, it loses its power over you. But you cannot simply reject one state without entering another. You must replace it with a new assumption, a new identity. If you wish to leave behind failure, you must step into success. If you wish to leave behind loneliness, you must assume companionship. If you wish to leave behind lack, you must assume abundance. The world cannot hold you in a state against your will. It only reflects what you accept as true. Do not wait for circumstances to change before you assume the new state. That is not how creation works. The change begins within, and the outer world follows. Feel now what you wish to experience. Accept now the identity you desire to claim. Live from that state. Think from that place and know that it is already done. The moment you make the assumption, the shift has occurred. Persist, and it will become visible. There is no power outside of consciousness. No external force determines your destiny. The state you occupy is the cause of all that you experience. Change the state and you change the world. This is the truth that governs all creation. The choice is always yours. Everything you have heard is rooted in a single unchanging truth. Consciousness is the only reality. The world you experience is not separate from you, but is shaped entirely by your assumptions. Whether you accept this truth or resist it, the law remains in operation, molding your external conditions to reflect the state you occupy within. There is no external force determining your fate, no luck, no accident, no condition that stands apart from your consciousness. You do not need to struggle against circumstances. You do not need to fight the world or force change through effort. The only work required is inner work. Assume the feeling of already being the person you desire to be, and persist in that assumption until it hardens into fact. Do not waver, do not doubt, and do not seek confirmation from the world before believing. The change happens the moment you assume it to be true, and the world has no choice but to rearrange itself accordingly. Most remain trapped because they allow the evidence of their senses to dictate what they believe. They react to appearances, reinforcing the very conditions they wish to escape. But those who understand the law know that appearances are nothing more than reflections of past assumptions. To break free, one must dare to believe in the unseen, to assume the reality of their desire before it is visible. This is the only way change occurs. At every moment you are choosing. You are selecting a state, whether consciously or unconsciously, and that state is becoming your world. If you do not like what you see, do not attempt to change the reflection. Change the source. Change the assumption. Step boldly into the state of your fulfilled desire and refuse to accept anything less. Persist, and the world must conform. There is no limitation except that which you accept. No barrier except the one you refuse to move beyond. The power is yours, always has been, always will be. Assume wisely, persist faithfully, and know with certainty that what you believe in the silence of your mind will become the reality you live. This is the truth, this is the law, and this is the message you are meant to hear.